the RSS feeds, so I won't get into that in too much more detail, but really this left-hand side of anyone's home screen is kind of a playground for internet-based stuff because of this RSS thing. It does, as I said, it's fallen perhaps a bit out of favor amongst real tech nerds out there because it's not very powerful, but it does give you the opportunity to display information like this, a sort of up-to-the-minute feed of relevant blogs or relevant information that's just pertinent to it.
I only mentioned the one RSS feed into Yahoo News, but there's also the one, we also offer one into U.S. Customs, that is live feed the U.S. Customs website that gives you customs-based information. And then we've also done currency.
Right.
So you can have your favorite currency pairs. If you're buying trading in currencies, you can have your favorite currency pairs. You can get live feed into exchange rates.
Yeah. So it's in a way, it's kind of like a browser inside the browser because when it comes to, if you want to do some research, there are still, despite my poo-pooing of it, there are still thousands of RSS options out there. It's just a matter of finding the one you want and us sticking a link in there, essentially, to get access from our homepage into that world. So that's another thing we added a few years ago, and again, technically fairly minor, but could have a fairly significant impact if you find there's a valuable feed that you're interested in. We went down the path of TRG, which, we have to discuss our successes and our failures, realistically. I don't know that TRG is a failure yet, but it's something that we had this idea 4 or 5 years ago that people might be interested in booking their customs through our system as well. So this TRG concept, TRG is a company that books customs online. We introduced it, and I think it was the last user conference actually, so it was about 3 years ago. And it wasn't, it was moderately received, but I'll bring it up again because I think it's worthy of at least discussion. The idea that if you're dissatisfied in any way, or feel like you can do better when it comes to booking customs clearance for each of your containers, your inbound containers, that this option does exist. That there's this TRG, which I'll go to the website, TRG Direct, right, Tim? So there's this website, Customs Direct Filing is I guess the appropriate line description for what we're talking about here, that will allow you to file, again, customs clearance for all your containers. And Tim can speak to this better than I can, so
Yeah, it's two different services. So it allows you to direct file your ISF entry and also your customs clearance entry without using a broker, an outside broker. It's just a direct filing service. So you can sign up with them. There is a cost to sign up. It's like maybe $2,500. But then you can direct file. And instead of charging whatever your broker currently charges for customs entry and for ISF entry, it's $25 to $35 per customs entry, depending on volume. And it's between $3 and $5 per ISF entry, depending on volume. And it just pulls the data directly out of VISCO and pulls it into their system for you. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have access to a customs broker. Like if your container gets held up in customs, you can still have brokers on staff, and you can utilize a broker, but your cost structure changes. If you need to involve a broker, then the cost will be $75 per entry, and the broker needs to get involved.
So, again, that's the TRG element that has been available for a few years now, and it's another one of our instances where we've decided to really take advantage of the cloud environment, be able to pass information back and forth between two systems that are both online, and make that process easier. Because this is all, of course, everything we're really talking about here is eliminating duplicate entries. I mean, if you could use VISCO as a hub for all the data entry that occurs, and then all the third-party correspondence could be pushed automatically to another system, would that not be ideal? That's sort of the concept behind all this cloud stuff that we're talking about. So to bring it into the new generation, once we talk about some of the things we've done already, I'll talk about some of the things that are really active already, instances where we've used the cloud environment and customers are using it on a daily basis. And then one or two items that we've spent sometime in the last year or so further developing it and improving the way we communicate with other systems. So the first example, for those that, I'm trying to rack my brain, I'm not sure it's going to come to me, but some of you, I believe, are using QuickBooks Online as opposed to QuickBooks Desktop. That is obviously a web-to-web communication. We're using a much easier to maintain, to be frank with you, much easier to maintain communication system between two web instances, as opposed to those of you who may be on the web and dealing with a network-based QuickBooks integration situation, I'll call it. But anyhow, so QuickBooks Online is another example of how we've taken advantage of the cloud and built in this concept of web services, which I'll get into in just a second, to really improve and solidify the communication between our system and any other you're working with. So as I talk here about the next, a couple of other pieces about this, I did want to get into a bit more detail about web services, and again, I'm going to get a bit technical, but I'm doing it in the effort to make you guys think a little bit more about ways that we can make VISCO more powerful. We have another discussion to be had later on, I think it's tomorrow, about what VISCO is going to be in 2013 and going forward, and how you guys can help out and contribute to that, and where our next enhancements, improvements to the system are going to go. So this is sort of the predecessor to that, the precursor to that, in that we're looking for ideas to a degree, and we're going to describe some of the things that we've done already that have made VISCO in the cloud actually be a real thing, as opposed to just some concept that's out there in the clouds. Speaking of the clouds, I was going to make a joke, although I don't have a good one, about the clouds showing up today, and thank you for that so much. So anyhow, the web service idea is that we've built this sort of listener that is an intermediary stage between VISCO and any other web-based system. Now, it's only going to work with web-based systems, but it's given us the opportunity to take a lot of the stuff that we are doing when it comes to web-to-web communications and standardize it in a way that any additional communications are going to be done much more easily, programmatically speaking, and in theory, across the board, everything should get easier. So a lot of that standardization came from work that my father, well, I was going to give props to, he's not in the room. Oh, no, he wasn't. I think they left. A lot of that came from this freight quote integration. And the freight quote is the one that I want to touch on the most, because if you guys are familiar with the website, freightquote.com, it does US location-to-location quoting online, can give you the best available prices for whatever your goods may be for a particular transfer of inland goods. And we have set up this web service as an integration point for VISCO as well, using, as I discussed, the web service concept that allows us to communicate between two systems. So what is freight quote as a traditional service? I'll just go onto their website and bounce around a bit to show you. Some of you may be familiar with it already, others not. You do need an account for this as well. I don't know, is there a setup fee on this one?
No.
No setup fee. These guys will, again, Tim could probably speak to it in a little bit more detail, perhaps.
Well, as far as the setup goes, we can handle that.
Okay, good. We have a customer running this in beta already as well, but the idea is very simple. Look at this. They've made it very simple for us. You want to get free quotes, they may have to ask me to sign up here. We'll find out. But yeah, they're going to ask me to sign up. But if I were to sign up, here, and again, some of you may already have these accounts. If I were to sign up here, then it's basically a matter of, okay, show me where it's coming from, where it's coming to, what's the class of product that you have, is there hazmat considerations, and so on and so forth. The details that would be required if you were having a phone conversation or email to one of your standard freight carriers. Now the idea is, of course, these are people competing for your business, so you're going to get 4 or 5, maybe more listings of the various companies, and you'll recognize some of the names of these carriers. It's not, necessarily mom and pops, although they're there too. But some of these are major carriers, major freight companies vying for your business through this consolidated form. So this, in and of itself, there's benefit to it, but I'm not getting paid by FreightQuote to tell you this. I'm just saying that, if you guys feel like you're in a rut and you're not really getting the right pricing, or if it's worth a half hour's worth of research to just see if you can get better pricing than some of the freight you're already paying for, then just dive around their site for a little while and take a look and let us know what you think. Now, if you've already used it, that's great, because as Tim said, once you've got an account, I don't know if you said this, but this is sort of the next step in this. Once you've got an account with them, then the points of integration with our system become automatic. Essentially, you've signed up, we get your login info stored in our system, and then suddenly you've got the ability to book freight, quote and book freight directly from VISCO without the data entry involved in freightquote.com. So there are many points of this integration that are worthy of discussion. Think about where in VISCO do I have any relevant freight information that would be pertinent to a quote. The first place we thought of, and I think the place that, Daniel, I'm not going to, do you mind if I meant to ask you during the break as well, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you mind if I mention that you are the beta? There you go. No, don't mention it. So Daniel, in this case, and his company is the beta for this, and I believe this, during our discussions, it was decided that, well, let's get some quotes for transportation from our warehouses to our customers, and have that quoting be part of our quote process to the customer of the product itself. Be able to get that, book that freight, or not book it necessarily, but offer up the quotes as part of our service to the customer, and really make simplify that quite a bit.
Let me stop one second. I think, Daniel, in your case, it's true that you quote the customer a delivered price.
It depends on the customer.
Either or. So when you're doing research, you just want to quote the customer. You came in here to see, okay, what would the freight be, and then you just basically factor in the price of the product.
So in the places in the system where FreightQuote is available, you'll get the link up top. This is assuming that you have an account with them. That is, again, the key to being able to use this service through VISCO. If you have an account with freightquote.com, send us the information. You get the link at the top of the tabs area here, excuse me, and you're brought up into a new screen here where you're able to, the system will bring in any information that you have already and auto-fill each piece of information that it knows about. So in this case, I didn't choose one necessarily that has a ton of information there already, but the zip codes would come in automatically. And let's see, there's some other stuff which, I mean, if I were a freight expert, I wish right now I was, I would know a lot more about this, but each of these checkboxes and what they mean. But I have seen Daniel and his crew work with it, and it seems, again...
Yeah, it's just an additional surcharge for different types of deliveries.
Okay.
It's like a $50 extra fee that's going to a construction site.
Yeah.
It takes longer.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're basically just asking, how do we build this quote? And now, to speak to that a little bit further, some of these checkboxes we do not have. But if it were pertinent information in any way, shape, or form in VISCO, and you felt like storing that in VISCO, we could literally fill in any of these checkboxes as needed. We have the ability to pass in all this information. I don't know if this has been described in enough detail to you yet or not, but every one of these checkboxes could be controlled through a piece of data already in VISCO. Right? So is it a construction site? I mean, that's a great example of something we don't necessarily store for each address in VISCO, but we could now tack that on and have that auto-fill into this. It's great. So as you're going